You're right, Joe. It is time for the BFL Weekly Update. I need to drink water.
Extra long that week, or this week.
Well, I cut it off a little bit last week, so I figured, you know what? I'll give you the full effect.
I like it.
Oh, first off, we had 6 BFL Super Tournaments this weekend, 2-day events. They're double points, extra money, all the good stuff.
Super Tournaments.
Just like that.
Yeah.
I'm going to cut that out. I'm going to put a little music behind it. We'll use that in future episodes for sure.
All right.
But probably not because I'm a little lazy.
And there's not many Super Tournaments left.
Well, we're getting down there. I think we've got 2 more weekends of Super Tournaments.
Mm-hmm.
Anyhow, the Bulldog division on Lake Oconee, John Duvall caught 32 pounds, 7 ounces over the course of the 2-day event. And he fished shallow docks with a spro frog and a homemade black and blue jig. He was fishing really shallow docks. That was his key. And basically just fishing areas he knew, fishing history, good little pockets and stuff like that. And he came up with the win.
How was your weight prediction on that? I mean, 32.7. What did you predict going in?
Well, I don't know.
Oh, putting you on the spot here.
I do think about it sometimes because I'm like, what did I predict? And when I'm predicting weights for 6 different BFLs, like every weekend, it feels like they kind of run together. So I don't know. I think, though, it would have been pretty close. I think I usually do predict a little optimistically. But if you subtract the natural Jody optimism, I think the prediction is pretty close.
I'm going to see if I can find your weight prediction while we're looking at other stuff.
All right. Well, these were the 13th and 14th. Is when they occurred, so that would be the one to look at. Anyhow, next up, the Great Lakes Division on the Mississippi River at La Crosse. Mike Brugan, fishing in this upcoming rayoback, caught 31 pounds, 9 ounces, and I'm going to let him talk a little bit about basically how he caught his fish and a little bit about what he thinks is going to happen in this rayoback.
Well, I don't know. I was just swimming a jig on weed lines, really.
Okay.
And I ran into 2 groups of fish where the current was different.
Do you like having some momentum coming off the BFL win for the rayoback?
Maybe. I don't know. To be honest with you, this is the first time that Super Tournament's been won on largemouth in as long as I can remember. I didn't think I had a chance to win on largemouth. I don't know why them guys smallmouth didn't bite yesterday, but realistically they should have, and I shouldn't have won. So you're going to need smallmouth. You're going to need them to win this week.
All right, now the one thing I want to mention, I don't know if he said or not, but he was throwing swim jigs. But I want to just mention that he was a little bit hesitant to give too much info out because, he's got the rayoback coming up, and he knew that people were going to, be reading this article and looking at it. And
sure.
I think on the one hand, yeah, he thought he was going to need to find some smallmouth to succeed. On the other hand, he obviously had a spot that had some quality largemouth, and he had a particular thing he was looking at to find those quality largemouth. So I think it makes sense that he wouldn't want to give too much of that away. You got a weight prediction to call me out on.
I did. Well, first of all, the Great Lakes one we were just talking about, you mentioned Brugan won with 31.9. You predicted 34 pounds. A little Jody White optimism,
I like
and we're
it.
right there.
That seems really good to me.
Back to the Bulldog real quick. John Duvall won with 32.7. You predicted 30 pounds, so you undercut that one a little bit. But still within 2 pounds. That's pretty good.
I'll take it. I'll take it.
Next
All
one.
right.
Congratulations to Mike Brugan.
For sure. Next up, the Illini division on Lake Shelbyville. George Taylor caught 20 pounds, 14 ounces. Get this, all on the first day.
I heard about this.
I know. It's just insane. You're not really supposed to be able to zero on day 2 and still win a BFL Super Tournament, but he did. Had an incredible day 1, and I'm going to let him talk a little bit about his day 1 right now.
I caught them on jigs, one here and there. I caught 2 in one creek and 3 in another.
Okay.
Back and forth. This, I don't know. I wasn't even patterning the fish. I wasn't even doing that good in practice.
You just happened
I did catch 1 5-pounder the day before practice. The day before the tournament. And I think I caught that fish Saturday. And
Wow.
I got it right up to the boat. I kept fooling with him until he got off, rather than handle the fish and boat it, And I went back to that place that morning, and I caught one about 4. Then I went to another creek. I caught one in there about 4, and I caught a 2-pounder in there. So I go back to that other creek where I caught that 5 or 4, the second place I'm talking about, I caught a 5. Then I went back to that other creek again, and I caught that 5-10 in the same place that I caught one Friday. And it looked I didn't weigh it, but it looked to be the same fish, come out of the same very spot. I don't know. I never done good up there. It's just a blessing.
So day 2 for him was obviously pretty tough. He fished some of the same stuff. He fished some new stuff. He had one fish on that was a non-keeper. He ended up getting it in. It was about a 1/4 inch too short.
Gosh, what a disappointing day.
He said he didn't think in a million years that he was going to win on day 2. He was coming in with no fish. He was sure he was done. So that's incredible.
What kind of lead did he have after day 1? Did you see that at all?
I think he had like an 8-pound lead or something like that.
Okay, so someone else had caught 12.
Yeah, day 2 was really tough for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was tough. There were a lot of 2 and 3 fish limits being brought in on day 2. And he caught his fish on a candy craw colored strike king jig. So or his day 1 fish anyhow. Day 2 he basically didn't catch any fish. So that was
I'm assuming he threw that same jig and not nearly as much success.
I think he did throw it a lot. I do think he also, probably mixed in a few other things too.
Tried everything in his tackle box maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah. Good news for you is you predicted that the 2-day winning total would be right around 18 pounds. So, I mean, he smashed that on day 1. You had to have been looking, oh my God, I'm way off on this one.
If I kept track of these, I would have been worried.
You were on pace for an all-time way off, but...
Imagine if he caught even 10 pounds the next day and I'd been wrong by 15 pounds or whatever. Gosh.
So you still were off by just over 2 pounds. Nice work. And you called the jig, which you call a jig every tournament. But
I do pick a jig every tournament, but jigs came through for me really well in this weekend of tournaments. And for that fall jig pattern, it's always a good deal. Anyhow, this next one was not one on a jig. It was the Mississippi Division event on Pickwick Lake. Lloyd Pickett Jr. won this event. He caught 39 pounds, 6 ounces. It was won by almost 7 pounds. He had a really great event. Lloyd Pickett Jr., he's a stud down there. He's been to a bunch of All-Americans. Everybody knows his name if you follow BFLs extensively in that part of the country. Or if you just really like people named Lloyd Pickett Jr. Anyhow, I didn't get to talk to him the day of the event. But I actually talked to him the day after the event and sort of got the scoop of how he caught his fish. He was basically throwing a Carolina rig on the first day, real light Carolina rig, lightweight. On the first day, he threw it with a brush hog. On the second day, he threw it with a trick worm. And he was targeting the outside edge of weed lines, or of weed flats.
Okay.
And he said a lot of people were fishing sort of up in the weeds or right on the edge of the weeds. He was basically casting to where their boats were and working parallel through that little bit deeper section. And he said on the first day, the fish would just about take the rod out of his hands when he set the hook on them. They were so aggressive and eating so well. And he told me he lost a double-digit fish on the first day and lost another really big fish. Not double digits, still really big, on the second day. And he said, you shouldn't be allowed to make that many mistakes because you shouldn't be allowed to lose 2 big fish and still win. But it obviously worked out, and he had the pattern to be on for that event for sure.
Right, won by almost 7 pounds already. Imagine if he got the big ones in.
I know, right?
Just really ran with it.
If you could have added, 8 pounds, 7 pounds to his limit on day 1, gosh golly, that would have been something else.
Do you remember your winning weight prediction for this event?
I have no idea, but I remember having trouble with it because previous ones, there was a pretty wide spread. I looked at the two previous events at that time of year, and like one of them was like maybe 36, and the other one was like maybe 40 something, and I think I tried to sort of hedge in between, and I might have said like 37, but I'm not sure.
You went with 40. So within an ounce, that one. Yeah. 39.6 was the winning total. So
well, that's good. See,
nice work.
I'm glad my optimism worked out. Lloyd, thanks for picking me up. Next up, the Mountain Division event on Barren River Lake. Dwight Fox won his second BFL of the year on Barren River Lake. I think it's like his fourth in a chunk of years on Barren River Lake. He's got the place dialed in. Yeah, super nice guy too. Does
he live on the lake?
He doesn't live on the lake, but he lives near it.
Okay.
And I like talking to him a lot this year. I've enjoyed both of my interviews with him. He caught 34 pounds, 14 ounces, and I'm going to let him talk about that right now.
Number 2 this year. That makes 4 up there in the last 3 years.
You're on a roll. What's your secret to success?
Well, being lucky. No, really, I practiced a couple of times before the tournament, and I caught a lot of fish, but I didn't really catch any big fish. And, some just barely keepers, but this past cool spell cooled the water down 4 or 5 degrees, and the places I was catching the smaller fish, the bigger fish moved in, and every fish I caught came on a green half-ounce jig. I had one rod out. I'll use one rod. I told the 2 non-boaters with me, I said, I'm either going to catch him on this rod or get the red butt and go home. So, but it looked out that I got him.
Awesome. Well, that's great. These spots that had small fish and then the big ones showed up. What kind of spots were they?
Well, they were mostly wood, but deeper. The fish were from probably 4 to 6, maybe 8 foot deep, around big timber, if you could find it, and then loose chunk rock that had little dark places in them. The fish were kind of laying there in ambush. And the first day I caught 6 keepers. I had 6 good solid keepers by 10:30 on the strip of bank, probably half a mile long. And I told my non-boater, I said, I'm going to leave these. I said, this should get me the fish the second day. And I came back the next day, and I made 3 trips down it. And at 9:30, I had a limit. And then about 10:30, 10:45, I called 2 fish. And then after that, I didn't catch any more big fish. All I caught was small fish. But I came back, and I got lucky. I had just enough to win. To me, it was the perfect weekend. I wasn't really, and in fact, I told my wife, I said, I didn't really feel good about going, but everything fell into place. I didn't lose any fish, and the fish that I got were good, chunky fish. And yesterday I had one. They didn't weigh it, but they made a picture of it. It looked like it weighed between 6 and 7 pounds, and that one big fish made the difference.
So, Joe, that's really the story. He pretty much covered everything, picked it all apart, gave you the whole lowdown. He had a really great event and picked up the W. What was my weight prediction?
Weight prediction was a 2-day total right around 30 pounds. So 34, 14. Yeah, this was your furthest off tournament of the weekend.
Oh, so that means I'm pretty close in the next one. I like that.
We'll see.
Anyhow, he had a great event. And finally, we're moving on.
Congratulations, Mr. Fox.
There we go. Moving on to the Okie Division. Grand Lake. Thomas Kennedy caught 29 pounds, 11 ounces. And I'm going to let him talk about that right now.
Cold front moved in Friday, and I kind of had figured out that my fish were deeper in the mornings, and then they would move up a little shallower as the sun and shad came out. I kind of put together a milk run of docks and brush piles from mid to lower lake, I would say, that I started on Saturday. Most of my better bites came in the afternoon once the shad was a little more active. I would say I caught maybe 20 keepers Saturday, and the 5 fish that I weighed in were all within an ounce of each other. They were pretty much all exactly Sunday, I was kind of thinking that I would need another 15 pounds. Most of the spots that I caught them on Saturday apparently didn't replenish, so I had saved a few spots later in the day once I got to about 15 pounds that I knew had some more fish on them, and when I went to them Sunday, I was able to get 8 keepers off of those spots to get to the weight that I had.
Awesome. Sounds like you really had them pretty dialed in, actually, which is cool.
Grand Lake, it's about an hour from my house, but it's definitely one that I would consider my home lake. I spent a lot of time there. I spent 4 days last week fishing an Anglers in Action tournament, so I pretty much knew what they were doing, the type of, what I was looking for, and then kind of have a milk run built, of places that I've found over the years.
So he obviously had the lake fairly dialed in. He threw 2 main baits. He threw a 10-inch green pumpkin power worm on a Texas rig, and he threw kind of the opposite of that, a real small finesse-type bait. He threw a TC smoke red colored Elk River Jigs finesse jig, which I looked up online and looks like a pretty sweet jig, and I'm going to maybe get some at some point in time. They're cool
I think you tweeted about it.
I did.
I
tweeted the link out because, a lot of times like I see stuff and I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. A little bit cool. I'm like, oh, that was super cool looking. I like that one.
So you're going to be ordering a few of those Elk River jigs.
Especially, maybe this winter or, later in the season when that finesse jig bite turns back on.
Mm-hmm.
Because I need a few more finesse jigs. I'm low. I only have like 4 of them now. And that's it for BFLs. How did I do weight-wise on this one, Joe?
All right. Well, Thomas Kennedy, as you mentioned, caught 29 pounds, 11 ounces. Your prediction for this tournament was about 30 pounds.
Oh, so, baby. I'll take it.
You nailed that one. Again, nice work.
All right. Well, Joe, I think you should say congratulations to Thomas.
Congratulations, Mr. Kennedy.
All right. Guys, we're done with the BFLs. Joe, do you have anything else to talk about?
I think I missed a couple congratulations in there, but who knows. Congratulations to all of our BFL winners this past weekend.
It's an assumed congratulations.
Yeah, of course. I don't know how else to transition to the next one, so it's kind of been the thing.
It works great.
Yeah. That's all I've got to talk about, though.
And that has been the BFL Weekly Update. For more like this, check out the rest of the FLW podcast at flwoutdoors.com or on iTunes.